Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Deutsche Goldmesse is brought to you by Defiance Silver.
If you're playing energy transition, don't forget zinc. According to the World Economic Forum, if you're building an average-sized offshore wind farm, you're going to need 4 tons of zinc. I'm with Brandon McDonald. He is CEO of Firewood Zinc. Brandon, welcome back to Kitco.
Yeah, it's good to be here again.
Welcome to Deutsche Goldmesse. You've had a safe trip into the event.
Yeah, no, it's been good. I'm a little jet lagged, but otherwise ready to go here.
We're glad to have you here. Talk about McMillan Pass. Why is Firewood Zinc focused on it?
So we have 2 projects, but McMillan Pass, the flagship and the project that we launched the company around, remains and continues to be one of the largest undeveloped zinc projects in the world. Is fundamentally essential in that sense, given the current state of the cupboard of undeveloped assets. So we've been progressively de-risking it and growing it, and pretty happy with how things are going.
Tell us about the work that you did in 2021, because growing that has been the work that you've done in Boundary and Boundary West.
Yeah, so the original 2 deposits we bought were Tom and Jason, expanded the land package from 50 square kilometers to over 900, and then made a substantial discovery in Boundary and Boundary West, and some great hits there last year. And this drill season we'll have our biggest ever drill program, and looking for a maiden resource on Boundary and Boundary West, and then updating Tom and Jason as well. So it'll be a pretty big next 12 to 18 months.
2 pieces of news that I want to cover since the beginning of the year. First, I want to start with Gaina. What is that, and why did you stake it?
So Gaina River is a project that was originally, we staked, this was, the cheapest acquisition cost possible. A little bit of time in a helicopter to get some wooden stakes out there to physically stake it. But this is a project that had been explored extensively by Rio Tinto in the 70s, and then owned by Eagle Plains for quite a while. They viewed it as a Mississippi Valley style zinc deposit, carbonate hosted. Did quite a bit of drilling on it, and then eventually abandoned it. But since it was left open for staking, a paper had been published by some academics in combination with the former head geologist of Ivanhoe. They compared this to the Kipushi deposit in Democratic Republic of Congo. This is a deposit that is a real outlier in terms of grade. About 10 million tons of 35% zinc. They call it the big zinc. Mm-hmm. So that's any deposit that's compared to that. That's a pretty flattering comparison, right? So that there's these Neoproterozoic reefs only exist in 2 parts of the world, there and there in DRC and in that part of NWT. So our chief geologist thought we should own this and see if there's something to this paper. That they have these geological similarities doesn't mean that there's anything like Kipushi there. But it certainly seems like we should take a look.
The other piece of news is that you did a significant fundraising, I think, and it was also a well-timed raise as well too, Brandon. Yeah,
I guess it's better to be lucky than good. We timed the fundraising right before the market collapsed effectively, in the last month or so. So it gave us another $13 million. The lead orders and that basically accounted for all of it. So we had Teck Resources, the world's 3rd largest zinc miner, come in and top up their position to around 9%. We had Ibera Capital, a PE fund out of Australia, come in to around 11%. And we had one high net worth individual out of the US take about $3 million of the financing down. So after that's closed, we had almost $20 million in the bank, which is the most capital we've ever had. So we're well positioned, and it's going to be a busy year on site.
Let's talk macro. I'm glad you're here. Help us out with the zinc markets. There's been a lot that's been happening. I see that we hit some record prices for zinc. We had the problems with energy, which made it very expensive for the processing of zinc. And then we also have disruptions with Ukraine, Russia. What is the state of the zinc markets now?
Yeah, look, it's still unstable. The question marks around the European smelters, which were so dependent on Russian gas for operation, they remain. They're either remain shut or at least heavily curtailed their production. So with smelter bottlenecks, the metal prices inevitably went up. For the longest time, treatment charges did not go up with it, which you would expect if there was a smelter constraint. It eventually did kind of catch up. but it's still good times for miners as well. So when does this normalize? I guess is a big question, because you've still got mine supply disruption, you've got smelter constraints, which I don't think are going away anytime soon. You've got, like I said very early on in our discussion, there's nothing in the cupboard in terms of development assets. There's our project and a few other ones, but nothing like what's needed to really meet the world's needs. And we can't get away without galvanizing things. We can't just build bridges without zinc, because you're going to rebuild that bridge in 3 years because it's going to rust and fall down. And then you've got geopolitical issues that over a third of the world's zinc is mined in China, and they're never going to export it, right? And at least not as an unfinished product. So, the West and other countries, aligned with them, are understandably nervous about where these critical metals are coming from. So I think, this is certainly choppy times in the market, but I think it's the start of a long, lengthy bull market for base metals.
The federal government announced some support for critical metals. How does that impact Fireweed Zinc?
Well, it lowers our cost of capital a bit. So the most notable thing is that they introduced an extra flow-through tax credit for investing in critical metal exploration. So, for example, on like charity flow-through transactions, previously we'd look at a delta between the back end and the front end of 1.4 to 1.42 or something like that, but should be 1.5 or maybe even a little bit more now. So, if I get a counterparty giving me 10 million, now I can net 15, whereas before I might have only netted 14. So it's just a little bit extra, right? And equally important, hopefully, is this, billions of dollars that the federal government has set aside for infrastructure to critical metal projects. Canada is a big country. A lot of these deposits, like ours, are reasonably remote. Having access to federal funds for infrastructure definitely, reduces the cost of entry for these remote projects.
Lastly, over the next 12 months, what are some milestones?
Well, a lot. So obviously, big drill program this year with being cashed up. A new global resource, including Boundary and Boundary West. I'm guessing Q2 next year. It really depends on the labs. And then following that, an updated PEA, which includes Boundary and that sort of stuff. Q3, possibly late Q3. Again, depends on when the resource and all the knock-on effects of that. So about the biggest catalysts we could look for, and hopefully some other exciting stuff too. So, this is, in our 5-year history, the most, catalyst-rich, period we have ahead of us. Very exciting. Obviously means we're all very, very busy, but we've got an excellent team. So I feel like we're in good hands.
Brandon, thanks for speaking with Kitco.
Yeah, thanks.
He's Brandon McDonald. He is CEO of Fireweed Zinc. My name is Michael McRae. You're watching Kitco Mining at Deutsche Goldmesse here in Frankfurt, Germany.
Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Deutsche Goldmesse is brought to you by Defiance Silver.